My name is Mason Martinez, and I'm a real estate agent here in Tucson, Arizona. I want to take a look at 2023, specifically the housing market and how it performed, and what data we can look at to help predict what might be to come in 2024. Now, one of the ways I've always described Tucson housing and the housing market in general here in Southern Arizona is very resilient. Resiliency is what I see in the data. Now, if we eliminate the COVID years, which we'll consider unicorn years, 2021, and 2022, prices, I think we can all agree, were inflated to a point that it was almost unreasonable. Hence why we saw the increase in rates and all the talk of the Feds increasing rates throughout the last couple years. I'm a big numbers and data guy, so I'm always looking at the bar graphs. And one thing I want to point out is that the data in real estate is a lagging data set, which means we have to wait for the month or the year or the quarter to finish until we can see the data that just occurred for the previous month or quarter or year. Based off those sets of data, we can make our predictions and our projections as to where the housing market will go and what direction we're headed. Now, I went as far back as 5 years and as recent as 1 month to look at the data and how the housing market performed. And the reason why I did this is because 2023 saw a lot of ups and a lot of downs. And fast forward now to January 2024, as soon as the new year hit, we've already seen an increase in activity. Now, a lot of the metrics that I look at are actually down when it comes to month comparisons. But when we look year over year, we are still up either 1%, some as high as 12, 16%, depending on what you're looking at. One of the biggest data sets that we can look at is simply closed listings. Now, over the last 5 years, Tucson has probably averaged about 15 to 14,000 closings a year. That means closed sales, money was traded hands, and keys were handed off. So closed sales. Now, I went back 5 years, but I'm going to give you the last 3 years, and these are the closed sales for 2021 in Tucson. 17,000, 2022, 14,000, and for 2023, it was 11,889. Now, year over year, that's down 18.1%. When I see that metric of closed sales going down, one might assume that prices also went down or even came crashing down. I know there was a lot of speculation, and I personally had a lot of conversations with families that were shopping that said, oh, I'm going to wait to buy until the market comes crashing down. Now, contrary to what your friends have said or family or even the headlines have said, the crash never came. So with that being said, I look at the average home value in Tucson, and it's actually gone up. So sales came down 18% from the previous year. However, home prices went up when it came to the median and the average. Now, I told you I went back 5 years to look at all the data, but I'm going to pull the last 3 years to include 2023 and give you the average home prices for homes here in Tucson. In 2021, the average home price was $379,000. In 2022, it went from $379,000 to $425,000. And in 2023, as of just maybe 20 days ago, we finished out the year at $443,000. Now, if you're comparing 2022 to 2023, your home went up on average 4.2%. So that brings me back to the lesser closed sales, but home values went up. And what that comes down to is supply and demand. There simply wasn't enough supply to meet the demand. Halfway through the year of 2023, buyers became comfortable with where rates were, and we saw buyers re-enter the market at a time where historically Tucson sees buyers leave the market, which is the winter time. Tucson is naturally a slow market when it comes to the winter, and if you really want to get the most bang for your buck, if you are a seller, it is always beneficial to sell your home in the spring to summertime. And if you're a buyer, if you want the best deal, it's always best to buy during the winter time. And that's because there's less buyers shopping, homes are going to sit a little longer, and you're not going to have to pay as much for a home as you would when the competition is more abundant. Now, the trade-off is when you go to buy during the winter, you're going to have to face less inventory. So you might not have as many homes to choose from. Now, lastly, what I want to look at and what I normally look at and what kind of throws people for a loop is days on market and how long does a home on average sit on the market before it sells. Now, again, going back 3 years, starting from 2021, in 2021, the average days on market was 17 days. That was when it was fierce, homes were flying off the shelf, and people were paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over asking price. A cool little piece of info, not sure if you know it, but it made national headlines. Tucson had a home that sold in 2021, I believe that's the year, that sold for $1 million over asking price. And it was incredible. I think it was maybe warranted at the time, but again, a beautiful home, but quite interesting as to what people were doing. Now, 2021, 17 days on market. 2022 was 23 days on market, and 2023 was 40 days on market. So that is up 73.9, we'll round it to 74% from the previous year. The days on market almost doubled from 2022 to 2023. I know when you look at it at a granular level for a home in a neighborhood, the longer a home sits, one might think that seller is going to get less money, and that's typically true. However, because it was a supply and demand issue, again, not enough supply to meet demand, that kept prices stable. And that brings me back to the word resilient. Because of the overarching issue here in Tucson, which is supply and demand, it kept prices stable, if not on the upward trajectory. So to summarize, again, your closed sales for this past year was 11,889, down 18%. Average home price for Tucson was $443,000, up 4.2%. And your average days on market for 2023 was 40 days at plus 73.9% from the previous year. Now, I found this very interesting because many people and any homeowner should look at their home as an investment. So I took the last 5 years of data and I averaged it out as to how much homes have increased in average price point. And over those last 5 years, homes in Tucson have averaged 12.75%. Now you can ask anyone, if you're getting a 12+% return on anything, that is a solid investment. So look at the data. Please don't trust your broke neighbor or your crazy uncle on what the housing prediction is. We have 20 years of data to look at to see what Tucson has done. Now, I want to make this clear. This is nothing that anyone can predict. I don't have a crystal ball, and if I did, I'd be super rich on a beach somewhere. So something might change. You know, I'm bullish on real estate. Of course, I'm probably a bit biased in that because this is what I do. However, I'm going to always go back to the data and look at what we have, and we can project where we're potentially going from there. Now, one little last piece of info that I thought was interesting. If you know Tucson, we have a pretty good condo and townhome market, and those actually did surprisingly well. So I want to give you the difference as to how much the difference between a single family home and a condo and townhome increased when it came to price. Now, for a single family home, it went up 2.7% in 2023, and the condos and townhomes, that's a combined category, those went up 6% in 2023. So we saw a lot more growth in condos and townhomes than we did in single family homes. It's probably safe to assume those went up more because when home prices went up, condos and townhomes became more affordable, and that was the more sensible option, seeing as how rates crept from 6 to 7 to even 8% at one time and have now slowly trickled back down. I expect that the next year we'll probably see those numbers balance out, and we'll probably see a fairly matched comparison when it comes to single family homes and townhomes and condos. A lot of what I've given you in this video is the view from 10,000 feet. If you want to get closer or you're curious about a certain neighborhood, you're looking at investments, you're looking at purchasing a home, your first home, a vacation home, or you're a snowbird, I'd be curious and happy to help when it comes to specific neighborhoods or zip codes or parts of town. I think this is very important to look at on a regular basis because it's not like buying a pair of shoes from the store. These are large purchases. Families want to know what they're buying, what they're getting into, as well as everyone from out of state that comes to Tucson. I work with a lot of out of state families. Right now, I have 2 from California, 1 from Oregon, and even 1 from Poland that are looking to relocate. And I want to reassure them as to where the housing market stands. Is it volatile? Is it stable? Is it projected to go up or down? I want to give them that peace of mind and give anyone that peace of mind that's considering making a large purchase when it comes to real estate. To wrap things up, I want to say that since the new year and since the Fed has decided to pause rate hikes, as well as they've announced rate cuts that are going to come later in the year, we have seen a small surge in activity. Now, again, naturally, we always see that surge in activity after the new year because we know that closings in February, March, and April increase to a pretty substantial point because of the transactions that happen in January and February. I'm pretty excited for 2024 with the recent events now that we've crossed the holidays and the Fed has number one, paused rate hikes, and two, announced that they plan to cut rates later in the year, we've seen a surge of activity in the Tucson market, and probably safe to say across the national level. Specific to Tucson though, we always generally see an increase in buying and selling after the new year. Like most people during the holidays, you're putting money aside for travel and holidays and food and family. So no one's really going too crazy with the home shopping. Once all that is said and done, and because we're a very seasonal market, I mean, today is early January and we're already in 70+ degree weather. It is beautiful here. We see a lot of activity and people getting back into the market and buying and selling homes. We're only a few weeks into the year and the Feds haven't even cut rates yet. They've been hovering around 6%. I think we're going to have a pretty good pop come springtime, and the housing market is going to face a similar problem as it did before because there's still not enough supply to meet the demand. I know it might sound corny and you hear it all the time. When is a good time to buy? Well, my answer is I'll give you two options. The best times to buy are either 10 years ago or today. And again, I'm going to circle back to the data. Those bar graphs continue to go up and to the right. Now, some years they go higher than others, but overall, I can go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and home prices have only gone up in the long run. If you're considering moving to Tucson, or you're already a homeowner here and you're looking to buy or sell, or you're simply just curious about the market, I would love to chat more and answer any questions you might have. Again, I love this stuff. I think it's important to look at. I would encourage you not to look at so many of the national headlines and look at the hyper-local headlines and events and the numbers. Get with an agent who understands the market, who is transacting in the market, and who's an active agent in both the buying and selling side. I'm Mason in Tucson, and I love what it is I do. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.